Hello there, everybody. This is Tahiera Monique Brown. In this presentation, I am presenting to you Survivor's Rise, Beauty for Ashes. This was a speech I did for Ocala, Florida, for Marion County Children's Alliance. I was creating this speech, and I thought it would be nice to share what it's like when I'm creating in real time. And normally I record as I'm creating my speech. So here you get to hear me creating Survivor's Rise, Beauty for Ashes. Enjoy. Survivor's Rise, Beauty for Ashes. In Isaiah 61:3, it is stated, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. This is a quote from my book, Unedited Innocence, when you start on the first page. This was a poem that I had written to myself, hoping that if anything happens to me, that my children would find it and would be able to read the subliminal messages included into it. Because of the perpetrator, I couldn't pray, and I couldn't write what seemed like prayers. So I would write in monologues or stories or even in songs what I felt like I wanted to share with others or share with the Lord. Can you not see me? Can you not see my tears falling? I'm crying in the wilderness, bitter, stinging, ringing pains, cluttering in the closets of my soul. How do I stop the pain? The pain. The pain. I was just a tiny speck of sand caught up in a gigantic dust storm, crying out over the wind to be a voice for the voiceless. I've been called a nobody. But this nobody, like so many others, stood against the bellowing wind and faced torture, bullying, domestic violence, and 2 years as a hostage. I came through a coma with amnesia, and God created within me a voice to shout out for change in a world that was no longer recognizable to me. The few words of power spoken to me when I was coming out of the coma was, young lady, you're a survivor. We have marched for freedom, but we're not free in our own homes. Survivors, rise up from the dust of despair. Survivors, rise up from the valley of hopelessness. Survivors, rise up from the clutches of deep, dark, past memories. Survivors, rise up and know that today is another day to live life, to give it your all. Rest if you must, but keep moving towards freedom. Survivors, rise up to the loved ones left behind. We are their fortress. We are their voices when they were afraid to speak, or too afraid to speak. I had to face a harsh world even after the coma. The harsh world didn't go away because I survived. It became another kind of battleship. Just because you were battered and abused doesn't mean you're going to be loved by your extended family. Not only that, the court trial will begin. And many survivors face that reality and find themselves living in shelters or on the street are standing in the welfare line. There's no shame in none of that. You do what you have to do to survive. There's no shame in that. You do what you have to do to survive. They find themselves sitting with a social worker who has more compassion for them. The social worker tells them, feeds them, and tells them of a place to have a meal. They give you a place to lay your head, provide you shelter, give you a job, and give you hope. Yet you long for the family that's blood, as if they're gods, only to face rejection and constant reminders that you would not be a victim if you only did as your predator demanded. It's not until you realize that you're more than enough. You're more than you can imagine. You're courageous and you're strong. You can move forward in life. It's faith. It's taking one day at a time and surrounding yourself with people who have your best interest in mind. Sometimes many fail to recognize the help because they never knew love. They never knew kindness. So they are poised to reject the help. You're always wondering when the slap will come. When will the screaming begin? You've always packed and ready to be kicked out of every secure home you're ever exposed to. So you might choose to be the troublemaker just to get it over with. But stop, think, and stop the violence. I wasn't allowed to pray, but I did sing when I was locked away, and I was singing a whisper. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, ooh, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer, and everything's gonna be all right. I am not disabled. Since I fought to be the survivor I knew I was, family turned their backs on me, as to which I am thankful. For with them doing that, I was not carrying the label disabled. I'm thriving and I am resilient. I would not be forced to apply for Social Security checks given to me in the name of a heartless, non-loving caregiver. I was free to fail, free to fall into failure until I found success. I've got to think about all the people with boots on the ground, the police officers that left their family to save ours, the firemen who ran through a burning building to save a crying child, the mortician who lovingly cared for the body lying before him, crying for the lives left behind, the doctor who recognizes the signs of abuse but the victim lies, the nurse who comforts the loved ones crying in the halls, the caregivers taking the task of raising a child that is not their own, the preachers standing in the pulpits week after week after week, hearing the final goodbyes and cries of why? The families are torn apart with the sound of a bullet. The mothers, the fathers, and the children are left behind, scattered and lost. There is no shame in being a survivor. It's more than enough that you're still here. Survivors rise, you're more than enough. You're a beauty for ashes. Go research your police reports of victims crying from the graves, not dead yet, but their voices speak. I do have a few why questions to some people. Why did you leave me? Why couldn't you see that the smile on my face masked the tears flowing within me? Why couldn't you see the terror in my eyes? Why did you say to me, you have his kids, you are his wife, you belong to him. Now be a good wife and do as he says. Why have the neighbors say with tears in their eyes, I know that one day that boy will kill that girl? Why are we conditioned to believe that a woman or a child will not kill? Yes, they will. Read the papers. When a man cries out for help, we need to listen. When a child threatens his family, we need to listen. Think before you speak. Be aware of the sting a few words can bring. Saying the wrong thing can lead to someone to face unbearable horrors. This is not anything like the discipline that you do with a disobedient child. This is hallowed ground. This has been passed down from generation to generation. It's time to stop the pain is now. Survivors rise. We are beauty for ashes. Survivors rise. We are beauty for ashes. We are beauty for ashes.